grade 8 students. I am Angelisa Alexander, your social studies teacher. Welcome back to another session. Today, we are continuing from where we left off in Lesson 1 on how our nation is governed. If you were unable to join us for Lesson 1, I encourage you to mark off Chapter 5 in your New Horizon Book 2 and visit it after today's session. Our friends rejoining us today will help us with a quick recap before we go into today's lesson. We said that government of a country is defined as a group or body of persons elected or selected to rule a country, state, district, or other similar area. We also said that government is usually made up of two groups. Can you remember what those two groups are? Let's see how our friends remember. Alright, if you said elected politicians and skilled public servants, you are correct. Give yourselves a tap on the shoulder. We also said that government uses a system of electing its government and another system to elect its leaders. So this is our second question. Do you remember what they are? Making your guess? Alright. If you said a democratic system of electing its government and proportional representation system to select its leaders, you are correct. I'm so proud of you. So this is our third question, and it requires you to fill in the blank. So listen keenly, alright? The 9th executive and current president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana is? Correct! His Excellency Irfan Ali. I'm so happy you remember some of our key points from our previous session. You did really great, and I'm so proud of you. Now, let's take a closer look at the proportional representation system, like I promised you in the previous lesson. What are our objectives for today? Students should be able to 1. Identify and explain how the system of choosing political leaders or electoral systems work, and 2. List other Caricom territories that use proportional representation system, and also list territories that use another electoral system. Identify those electoral systems. Let's move right into the lesson. The proportional representation system. Before a party can contest the national elections, it needs to present a list of 65 names to the chairman of the Elections Commission. In Guyana, the Elections Commission is known as Caricom. You might have heard of that name before. That is the entity that is responsible for the administration and conduct of elections in Guyana. Each party is expected to name its presidential candidate from its list of 65. In Guyana, parties have to contest for a total of 53 seats in Parliament. To obtain one of those seats, or to have one member of Parliament, a party has to obtain a certain number of votes. And how do we know that? How do we know what number to use? This number depends on the total number of votes cast at that election. This figure is then divided by 53 and the number obtained is what each party would have to gain to have one representative in Parliament. Here is a country scenario for us to look at, so that you'll understand a little bit better what I just said to you. Romania, a country using the proportional representation system, just like Guyana, recently held their elections. 530,000 votes were cast. To determine how many votes one party needs to have one seat in Parliament, this formula is used. 530,000 divided by 53. Do the quick math and let's see what the answer is. The answer is 10,000. This means that for every 10,000 votes cast for a particular party, they have attained a seat in Parliament. This system is called proportional representation because parties are allocated seats in Parliament based on the number of votes the party obtains in relation to the total number of votes cast. The party with the majority of votes is invited to form government. If no party obtains a large enough majority to form a government, then it can join with another party to form a coalition government. A coalition government was formed in 2015 with the parties a Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change. The other parties who do not form government are grouped together to form the opposition. The opposition is headed by the leader of the opposition. So here's a question for you. Do you know who is the current leader of the opposition? Think quickly. Perhaps you might have heard of it announced on the radio or the television. All right. If you said Mr. Joseph Harmon, you are correct. The presidential candidate of the victorious party is sworn in by the Chancellor of the Judiciary. In Guyana, executive presidents are sworn in and referred to as His Excellency or Her Excellency. The president is also invited to name the ministers, cabinet ministers, and members of parliament to the government. Here's another question for you, and I know you will get this one right. Who is the Minister of Education? Now, that's one of the ministers that the president would usually name. So, who's that minister? Yes, you got it correct. The Honorable Priya Manichan. Good job. Here's a takeaway activity for you. Prepare a Guyana's presidential portfolio and provide the names of each president, a brief biography, and the duration of the presidency. List the president in the order in which they served. Now you can decorate the cover of the portfolio. You can make it as creative and interesting as you may want it to be. Ensure though that you have all the information that was required. Alright, so let's move right along. We're now going to look at proportional representation system and first past the post system in Caricom. Like Guyana, Suriname also uses the proportional representation system, which features party list system, also known as open list proportional representation. Candidates are elected by proportional representation on a largest average formula basis with preferential votes. In each constituency, the first seat is awarded to the political party having obtained the highest number of votes. The remaining seats are awarded to the party with the highest average number of votes. In each party list, the candidate or candidates having obtained the most preferential votes are declared elected. Vacancies arising between general elections are filled by substitutes according to the order of names on each party list. Let's now look at a first-past-the-post system. As was mentioned in Lesson 1, the first-past-the-post system is a popularity voting system where the candidate who wins the most votes in each constituency is elected. In addition to Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, other countries using the first-past-the-post system are Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, St. Lucia, and Belize, just to name a few. Let's take a closer look at how the system in Belize works. Belize is divided into 31 electoral districts or constituencies. Voters in each constituency elect one member of parliament to send to the House of Representatives on the first-past-the-post system. The Senate in Belize is not an elected body. A political party is a group of people who seek to influence or form the government according to their agreed views and principles. There are two main political parties in Belize. Each party nominates one candidate for each constituency. Independent candidates may also tend to contest the elections. The party that wins the most constituencies is asked by the Governor General to form the government. The leader of that party then becomes Prime Minister. If the party wins in more than 16 constituencies, it will have a majority government, which makes it much easier to get legislation passed in the House. If the winning party has fewer than 16 seats, it forms a minority government. In order to get legislation through the House, a minority government usually has to adjust policies to get enough votes from members of parliament of other parties. The party that has the second highest number of seats in the House of Representatives is called the official opposition. You can also research in other countries and how the systems work there. Remember, since we are part of Caricom, it is interesting to know how the system of government works in our neighboring countries. In concluding today's session, remember that 1. In the proportional representation system, parties are allocated seats in Parliament based on the number of votes obtained in relation to the number of votes cast. Guyana and Suriname are two Caricom countries that use the proportional representation system. The first-past-the-post system is based on electing the candidate who wins the most votes in each constituency. Belize, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and St. Lucia use the first-past-the-post system. In Guyana, parties have to contest for a total of 53 seats in Parliament. The party with a majority of votes is invited to form the government. The other parties who do not form government are grouped together to form the opposition. The opposition is headed by the leader of the opposition. Well, students, this has brought us to the end of today's lesson. There is so much more we can learn about our country and how it is governed, and even how other Caricom countries are governed. Do remember to complete those activities that were given. We will continue to look at another aspect of how our nation is governed in our next lesson. I am Miss Alexander, saying goodbye for now and see you in the next lesson.